Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to the Divine Union podcast. And if this is your first time tuning in with us today, welcome, because today we are going deep. I'm really, really excited to talk about this profound, transformative topic of addiction. And so today we're covering moving beyond addictive patterns for a more fulfilling life. Why? Because we all experience some form of addiction, which I will break down today. And this felt really synchronous for me because this is coming off the back of I just announced a 1 month social media cleanse. Why? Because I was using it in ways that weren't fully nourishing my heart and soul. And I was feeling off balance as a result. It was draining my energy. And that was a sign for me that there was some form of addiction happening. Yeah. So, I want to speak to while this episode explores addictive patterns and how to move past them, this is not intended as medical advice. So, if you or someone you know is struggling with serious addiction, please seek support from a licensed medical professional. Okay, now that we have that out of the way, addiction. Yeah. What is the dictionary definition of addicted? Addictive, exhibiting a compulsive, chronic, physiological, or psychological need for a habit forming substance, behavior, or activity. I'm going to say it again. Addicted, exhibiting a compulsive, chronic, physiological, or psychological need for a habit forming substance, behavior, or activity. Now, every single person has some form of addiction, whether that be to your work, to a way of being. Maybe you continuously show up in ways that are aggressive, yeah, or dominating. And maybe you're unable to break this pattern. Maybe you're in a pattern of reactivity. Maybe whenever you speak, you're really direct and you're blunt and you're unable to control it. It's an automatic response that's wired in over time from you behaving this way consistently through your life. Maybe it's an addiction to sweets, to sugar, and you can't control it. Maybe you think about it all the time. We also have addictive tendencies towards thinking about ourselves in certain ways. Maybe you always go to the negative in the way you view yourself. Maybe instead of a glass half full, you're a glass half empty kind of person. Yeah. Perhaps you are guilty till proven innocent. You always feel like people are out to get you. They're out to hurt you. They're out to do you wrong. You always go to the negative before the positive. Now, this is a form of addiction, and this is also wired in from conditioning and from behaviors over time where it becomes your way of being. Now, addictive patterns. Oh, obviously, social media, right? Addiction to social media. You can't stop scrolling. Addicted to your phone, right? It's designed that way. You can't stop looking at it. How do you know when it's an addictive pattern? When it's off balance, where you don't feel that you have control over the behavior. Addicted to sex, that's another one. They're going to just keep coming. You don't feel you have control over the behavior. So it's when you're operating from a place of codependency versus choice. That's really what it is. It's I am unable to control this. And maybe you know it's happening. Maybe you're conscious about it, but you still can't do it. You still can't help but look at your Instagram. You still can't help but pop open WhatsApp. Maybe you open your email and then you instantly close it. You're not actually opening it to look through your emails, but it's just this addictive tendency that comes. Maybe every time that you have a pause and you're bored, you go to the fridge and you get something to eat. Maybe every time you have a pause and you're bored, you look at your phone, you reach out to somebody instead of sitting in the pause. When you can't be with the pause, right, and you instantly go into something, that could be a sign, hey, ooh, there's something here. Now, addiction comes from unprocessed trauma or emotions. What does that mean? If you have a traumatic experience that you haven't fully worked through, or you have emotions that you are not feeling. Your addiction is a sign for you that something is there. Okay. Or maybe it's even a shopping addiction, right? Now, why is that? Because if you experience a trauma, let's say, or unprocessed emotions, maybe you're still from the trauma feeling fear. Yeah. Addiction numbs emotions. Addiction serves to numb our feelings. Alcohol addiction, shopping addiction, sex addiction, using food as emotional support, looking at the phone. It's because you're numbing something that you're feeling. Now, oftentimes the feeling is also, I want to say this. I will say that in a moment. Yeah. You're numbing something you're feeling. So maybe there's fear. Maybe you're transitioning jobs. Yeah. And you're afraid. Or maybe there's a big decision you haven't made and you don't have the answer and you're afraid. Am I going to make the right choice? Am I not? I'm anxious. So instead, I'm going to stress eat. I'm going to call people. I'm going to do everything to avoid feeling the anxiety and the fear that I'm feeling. Maybe you're feeling grief stricken. Maybe your partner left you. Maybe you left them. Maybe someone in your family passed. Maybe someone really hurt you. We go into addictive patterns to avoid feeling the feelings. I'm going to dive into work instead. I'm going to you could be addicted to anything, I'm going to be addicted to spirituality. I'm going to actually spiritually bypass so I don't actually have to feel my feels. So instead, I'm going to be watching these documentaries and pretending, trying to meditate, but I'm not actually feeling what I'm feeling. Yeah. And then I'm going to create these rituals, but I'm not actually feeling what I'm feeling. Yeah, I'm going to go get my nails done. I'm going to go shopping. I'm going to call people. I'm going to write my to-do lists. But there's this feeling looming in the back of pain. And when you don't acknowledge it, it stays there in the body and the addiction continues. Let me think if there's anything else I want to say on that before I transition into something. Also, unprocessed trauma, when you haven't worked through something, yeah, traumatic, then you try to block it out. You try to numb it out. And that can be a spark, a catalyst for addictive behaviors. All addictions do is they serve to numb feelings. The second thing that I want to say on this topic that is really, really profound, something I'm studying in the gene keys because addiction is one of my gene keys for a certain area of my life, is, and Richard Rudd talks about this, is the primal wound of the human being comes from a feeling of separation from the whole. What does that mean? I'm going to break it down in these insights from me here. We feel incomplete naturally as human beings. You ever feel that loneliness that just comes where you don't know where it comes from and you don't understand why? Everyone feels it. Whether you're in a relationship or not, you feel that hole of loneliness. I'm getting emotional because it's so deep. It's so ingrained in every human being. We forget that we are whole. We forget we are part of the whole. We feel alone in this world, even though we are all children of God. We are all connected. Yet there's a deep sense of isolation and of loneliness. It's something that will never change. It's something that we all feel as human beings. It's part of the human condition. And this feeling gives way to addiction in times where it comes. And usually it comes in the pauses of our day. I'm between tasks and I feel this deep loneliness. And maybe this deep loneliness is also this deep void. It's this deep emptiness. It's this deep feeling of like, I'm so freaking bored with life, or I'm so bored with myself. Like, I don't even know what to do. Like, the hours of the day are so long, right? If this ever feels, this comes up for people at different times, yeah, of your life. This feeling, or maybe it comes up often, yeah. The days are long. I feel this sense of loneliness, longing for something to fill me, to feel a sense of passion, a sense of aliveness. And so we seek external means to bring that. I'm going to buy an amazing item that's going to make me feel alive. I'm going to go on a lavish vacation, go to a lavish dinner to make me feel alive because inside I feel a little bit dead. Yeah, I feel a little bit incomplete. It's this longing. It's hard to describe this human feeling, but I know that you know what that feeling feels like inside. And so that's when we go to the fridge and we eat for emotional support, or we gamble, or we do skydiving and thrilling activities, or we go on social media to attempt to feel connected, even though it promotes more isolation in the long term. Or we go on WhatsApp, or we call a friend, or we check our email, or we're mindless scrolling, or we dive into Netflix. We talk to our partner so we don't have to feel it. So then we pretend that we feel connection when really, like, we feel the sense of emptiness inside. And so remembering that this is normal. This is part of humanity. This is, as Richard Rudd says, the original primal wound of our being, the disconnected from the divine. And so it's coming back and remembering that. It's remembering that we all serve a purpose under God's plan. God, source, higher divine love, whatever it is for you. We all serve a purpose on this planet. We all play a part in the harmony of life. And even if you feel like you don't understand, or maybe you're confused about your purpose, that's okay. Who you are, how you're created, the way that you think, the way that you look, all of this is created by Source, by God. And this is part of the journey. I'm going on a side tangent here, but it feels true for me to share that, to ease any anxiety, because oftentimes the anxiety that we feel about our path comes from fear. It comes from Like, it comes from the ego in this life. And I want to assure you that whatever you don't do in this life, you will do in the next. Whatever good you feel you deserve to be repaid from God or given to you, and you don't feel like you get it in this life, you will get it in heaven. You will get it in the next life. And I want you to remember that so that we don't put so much pressure on ourselves to have to be this vision that we think that we should be in our lives. And we do the best that we can. And we take life one step at a time and we wait for direction and we follow that direction and we move as gracefully as we can through the ebbs and flows of life because that's all that we can do. And when you remember that, addiction doesn't have to have such a stronghold over you. Why? Because addiction also comes from fear of I am afraid, so I'm going to do this to numb, right? But if you don't have to be afraid because if you're just being and you're present and you who you are, then you allow your feelings to feel. And you're not trying to be someone else, and you don't have to try to be something that you're not or make it to somewhere and push your feelings down so that you can get to this next spot in your journey, but the feelings need to be felt. And maybe you're moving slower than you want to be moving, but that's part of your process, that's part of your journey, and letting that be. And letting yourself feel every bit of it, because when you let yourself feel every bit of it, you don't have to numb out. This is it. And then instead, it's like, God, source, whatever you want to say, grant me mercy. I'm struggling right now. Help me move through it. So, how do we move through it? Number one, acknowledging it is the first step. Conscious awareness of your addictions. I'm going to the fridge to get something to eat when I'm not even hungry. I'm shopping more than I feel like I should be. Like I feel like I'm doing something wrong, which is a sign for me. Or I'm not in control. I'm texting. I'm on my phone so much it's draining me, but I still am doing it. I'm checking my social media constantly. I'm constantly calling people I'm not really with myself. I'm diving into work so much. I'm obsessed with work. I can't stop. I'm obsessed with spiritual development, but I'm not actually sitting with myself and reflecting and soaking up anything I learned. Acknowledge the addiction: alcohol, drugs, sex, sugar. Number two, get curious. Explore what is the feeling. So, sugar, yeah, this is something, ooh, this used to be real strong for me. I haven't had sugar in a very long time because of this, but yeah, I would use sweets as emotional support. And when I realized what I was doing, I get curious. Okay, ooh, I'm going for sugar. I notice like I want to eat a pint of ice cream. What's that about? What am I feeling? Get curious. Well, I am feeling lonely, even though I don't feel like calling anyone right now. Even though I don't feel like connecting and I'm in my own space, I'm still feeling lonely. Yeah, I haven't been intimate in a while. Yeah, that's something. Get curious. Explore what you're feeling. Number three, presence. Then it's being present with the emotion that wants to be felt. People always say that saying feelings are meant to be felt, but it really is true. We don't even feel our feelings. The word is feelings, and we push them down. So being present with them, I'm just going to lay in bed in silence and let myself cry if it comes. I don't have to expect it to come. I don't have to make it come. I want to just lay and see what comes. If I'm angry, let me give space to have privacy, take space from my partner. And I don't want it to be an excuse of, oh, I'm in a space that's tight quarters with my partner. It's your responsibility to take care of your feelings. Go outside, scream it out. Who cares? We are all human beings and we all need to release feelings. It's stop playing small, stop minimizing, do what you need to do to clear. Because if you don't, then they're going to stick in your body, and that's where ailments come. That's where diseases come. Heart attack, heart. It's often not feeling feelings of the heart. Giving space to feel your feelings. Yell into a pillow. Hit some pillows. Hit the bed. Go to a boxing ring. Punch a bag. Go take it out at the gym. Do some push-ups. Sing at the top of your lungs. That helps me a lot. I scream to reggaeton. I love reggaeton. I love it. It's my favorite genre right now. I mean, it's been my favorite for years. I go in phases. Letting yourself scream, letting yourself sing, dance it out, shake, move the energy in your body. It's actually a really good thing to shake the body because you move the waters of your body, which moves the emotion. So, A, acknowledge it. B, get curious. C, be present with it. Let it feel, let it come. An easy way to do that. Actually, I will put in the show notes. I have two things. I have an emotional fluidity practice, which allows you to move through different emotions. And when you can do that, even when you dramatize it, this practice it has you dramatize anger, rage, laughter, bliss, grief. The more you dramatize, the more comfortable you'll be in real time expressing emotions and letting them just move through you. And that's what they do when you feel them, they move through. You don't have to go as much into the addiction. There's also tuning into the felt sense. So you can tune into the sensations of the body if you're having a harder time accessing the emotions. What am I feeling in the body right now? Tension in the stomach, tightness and contraction around the heart. Start there. Do a body scan, which I'll put that in the show notes too. And you can sense what are the sensations that you feel in the body. So having presence around it. Yeah. And then it's finding a new activity instead of the addiction. So, because remember, we're acknowledging it in step A. So you know what it is. So when you go to do it, when you go to the fridge or you go to do this behavior, it's getting curious, it's being present, and then it's finding a new activity that's more enriching for your soul instead of the addictive behavior, because you have to fill it with something else, right? If I've got my sugar craving and I got my mind on a donut that I want to eat or a slice of cake, you bet your ass I have to do something wildly enriching instead that's going to feed that need. So, what is that for you? Is it a really interesting podcast? Going back to a bunch of the podcasters that you like and listening to it, popping it on. Sahara Rose, Aubrey Marcus, Emily Fletcher, Layla Martin. What are you listening to? Yeah. Documentary, dance, yoga, take a walk, meet a stranger. Oftentimes, if I just go for a walk, even though I don't want to, I feel good. Smile at a random stranger, have a good conversation. Yeah. You can also call a friend, but I want to encourage you to first like do things solo. Get in that habit because calling a friend can also be it's also a distraction. It's also addiction in ways. I used to do it. I would call everyone and anyone. I could was never alone. I could finish a call with someone, call the next. And so don't do that, but you can go out and talk to people in real life here and there, take a walk, have a conversation, then go back and walk with yourself. Because you strengthen your connection to yourself and you strengthen your core. And that is going to help you break free of these addictive strongholds that can happen. Yeah, this is such a powerful topic. I'm really, really excited that the transmission came to speak about this today because it's something we can all relate to as human beings. And there needs to be more light shed on these patterns. It's not just the traditional addictions people think of, but any single activity can be an addiction when it's off balance, when you are in a state of codependency instead of choice and sovereignty. And so to recap, we talked about what addiction is. Yeah, or being addicted is a compulsive behavior, something that's uncontrollable, where you're operating from codependence, not from choice. We talked about how it comes from unprocessed trauma, unprocessed emotions. We also talked about that human condition, the human issue that comes, this feeling of loneliness, of isolation, of separation from the whole, or just this void of emptiness that comes between the spaces that could sometimes be felt as boredom. And finding ways to fill that with more nourishing activities. And then also, when you have your addiction, yeah, acknowledging it, getting curious about it, bringing presence to it in tandem with doing activities that serve you, that nourish you, because the addiction never nourishes us. It always leaves us more drained. And because we're self-deprecating beings, we're going to have shame. We're going to self-hate. We're going to self-loathe. We're going to have shame about it. Or we're going to avoid it completely and harden and be in this state of total delusional grandeur. And that doesn't feel good. Conscious beings, we got the gift of consciousness because we're human beings. And it's our birthright to feel fulfilled and loved and connected to the whole and connected to God and all that is. And so bringing more consciousness to your patterns, to your way of being, and to when these behaviors creep up and getting curious when they do is going to really help you turn your life around so that you can feel so much more fulfilled. And fasting helps. Yeah. Fasting from the addiction, just like I'm doing with social. Yeah. So if you want to say, I'm going to not have sugar for a month, see how I feel. I'm going to not shop or look at anything for a month. I'm going to not call friends from the hours of 10 to 6. Focus on work. Yeah, because anything that takes you away from your presence, it becomes draining and you don't feel fulfilled. You also feel that gap because true joy comes from presence. That's why I said not everyone always goes into these patterns of it. Everyone has addictive patterns, but in a phase of your life, if you're highly inspired and you're creating and you're focused and you're in a deep state of presence, you're not feeling addictions. And so it's catching When does it go to the line of off balance where I'm feeling drained by it, where I can't control it, how I'm showing up around it? I love you all so much. And I would love to hear what landed for you in this episode or how it touched you, what was interesting. Reach out to me, shoot me a DM. I get back to you in a month on social media. If it's on social media, leave me a comment, leave us a review. We love to read those reviews. It lights me up when I see the feedback, and it helps us continue to create amazing episodes that land and that resonate. So, have a beautiful, beautiful day, night, afternoon, whatever time it is when you're watching and tuning in with us today. I look forward to seeing you next week. And until then, may all your unions be divine.